All right, we are on. Hey everyone, I'm Jared Samuels,
I'm Jordan Pouncey.
and welcome to the 24th episode of What's Behind the Game, where you'll get an exclusive look at all your favorite athletes eat, train, and anything else you'd like to know. Today on the show, we have Marisa Howard, who is a professional runner based out of Idaho. So let's
hmm
welcome Marisa.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. So to start off, tell us your story. When did you start running?
Yeah, I remember doing it pretty early on when I was in elementary school. Um, Not really competitively, but we would just have the mile run in PE, and we had like a top three board that I always wanted to try to get on. But I did competitive gymnastics until I was about 11, and then I played basketball and still did track in middle school, but didn't specifically focus on distance. I would do the mile, but I'd also do hurdles and high jump, even though I'm not very tall. But then when I got to high school, I wanted to do sprints because all my friends are doing sprints. And at our school, we did like a inter squad meet where you had to do 6 different events to see if there was like any hidden talent, like if people were like in the wrong event. And we were doing the 800, and I asked a girl, I said, what would be like a good time? And they're like, oh, probably like 3 minutes. And I think I ran 2:40, and they're like, yeah, you're not going to be a sprinter. You need to go to the distance. So that's kind of like a short version of how I got into distance running.
Mhm.
Cool. What was your training like growing up? And were there any like other sports besides running that you thought you might want to do when you got older?
Yeah, I really enjoyed gymnastics. I really liked the routine of it, and I guess the rigidity of it. And I was pretty good at a young age. Knew I learned really quickly how much time it takes to be a really good gymnast, and the time your kind of peak years are really small. Like you either make the Olympics when you're 16 to 20 years old, or or you don't basically. Versus running, I graduated college when I was 23, and now there's women that are making Olympic teams like into their 40s. But yeah, so I did gymnastics growing up, and then I played basketball till my sophomore year of high school. So really didn't get running specific, I'd say, until my junior year of high school, which I think will hopefully help my longevity long term.
Yeah, definitely.
Did you just enjoy? You said your talent was in long distance running. Did you just enjoy that more as well?
Yeah, I wanted to do like sprints, I guess, just for the social aspect because all my friends were doing it. But I guess once you start to excel and be good at a sport, I think you're naturally attracted to that. And I've had quite a few injuries in my career, especially in college. Um, and I remember I watched Logan's podcast and her mentioning like there's just something about being able to go out and run for an hour or 2 hours even, like without your phone and just be in nature. Um, there's just something about it, and it's something I really miss when I'm injured. So yeah, I love distance running.
Now, speaking of college, where did you run in college, and what were like some of
I
your
ran,
favorite moments?
yeah, I ran at BSU, Boise State, and some of my favorite moments. I mean, I guess the one that comes to my mind is when I really figured out that I could maybe do this at the next level. Going into nationals my junior year, I um, I think was probably ranked like 10th, maybe 12th going into the final. I ended up making the final. And then in the final, I PR'd by like 15 seconds and ended up second. Um, and I remember the night before, my teammate had just become a national champion, Emma Bates. She won the 10K title. And I remember laying in bed and just thinking, like, why not me? Like, she can go out there and do that. I train with her. Why can't I do that too? And I remember going into the last lap, I was in seventh. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be an All American. And then I slowly passed 5 people on the last lap and ended up second. So that was a really cool and special moment. My family was there. And I was married at the time. I got married pretty young in college. And so that was really special. And then probably another one was my senior year of college. We had a really good recruiting class that came in. And for cross country, we qualified to nationals as a team for the first time in Boise State history. And since then, I think that kind of set up these, these next couple of years of success that Boise State has had. So that was really cool to kind of lay that foundation for those young girls.
So was it that race in particular, or was there another moment you decided you wanted to go and become a professional?
Yeah, I would say that probably kind of solidified it. I mean, at that point, I'd just gotten second in the nation, and then I went on and ran at USA's that summer, and I didn't make the final. But I think that definitely like solidified that I wanted to try to continue to do this at the next level.
Definitely. So can you just tell us how the professional running world works?
Yeah, it's very different than like the professional football or basketball world. We don't have like a draft or anything. Although I think we should. Like, I know track, I think it can be a very marketable sport. I just think that we need to figure out how to do that. But anyways, so coming out of college, I didn't get an agent, and sometimes I go back and forth of whether or not I should have gotten an agent, but I started talking to a company, Wazelle, and I was sponsored by them for 2 years, my first 2 years out of college, and then we decided to part ways. But so yeah, generally you graduate and some people can get sponsorship deals and some people don't. Usually it's, I'd say the top one or two in each event can likely get a sponsorship deal. So they're pretty limited. Or you have to move and join like a training group. And I was pretty established in Boise, so I decided to not do that. So I stayed in Boise, and basically we enter into college races sometimes. Like we can run unattached or for our sponsorship, but you can enter into races, or there's just simply professional races as well. And then the goal every year is to make the world championship team, whether that be a cross country team, an indoor team, or the outdoor team. And then obviously during the Olympic year, the goal is to make the Olympic team. So that's kind of how it works. The US doesn't have as great of a circuit as like Europe, as far as like races and stuff. So a lot of people do go over to Europe in the summertime to race. And I went over there 2 summers ago, and it was a lot of fun. But yeah, I think the US they're trying to create more stuff and more opportunities for us, which is really cool.
Okay. So for those who aren't aware, what is the steeplechase?
Yeah.
Why did you decide to specialize in that event?
Yeah. So the steeplechase, I believe it started off as like a horses race. And that's when people hear it, they're like, don't horses do that? And so there's big hurdles on the track. I always compare them to like balance beams, like as far as thickness and kind of weight, but they are about 30 inches. So they come up to about like my mid thigh, I would say. They're the same height as the long hurdles for the 400-meter hurdles. So they're not too high, but anyways, there's 5 hurdles on the track, and 4 of them you hurdle, and then 1 of them you step on it, and there's a water pit after the hurdle. So you kind of leap off of it. Some of the African runners, they actually hurdle the water pit, which is kind of crazy watching those races, but most Americans step on that hurdle and jump into the water pit. And it's 3K, so it's just under 2 miles. And I got into it. I did it like twice in high school and was decent at it, but it's not offered. There's no like state championship for it. It's not one of the events that's run at state. So sometimes it's run at invites, but I did it twice in high school. And I also did hurdles in middle school. So I kind of had some of that background. And when you get to college, there's either the 1,500 mile or the 5K. There's no flat race in between. And so I thought, well, I might as well try the steeple, and ended up being pretty good at it. So it's really fun too, because it kind of breaks up the race. Like I can't imagine running a 10K, 6 miles on the track. So it kind of breaks up the monotony of a distance race.
Mm-hmm. So what does your training look like with all those different components? Do you practice
Yeah.
together, or is it all at once, or what does it look like?
So what was that? What was the end of that question?
Like, what does it look like? Is it all at once? Or are you just like constantly trying to do the event, or are you splitting everything up?
Yeah. So we don't do a ton of hurdle work, just because if you've ran a steeple, in college, you kind of have that muscle memory. So leading up into the track season, I mean, we do like this routine called hurdle mobility throughout the whole year. So that kind of keeps us pretty mobile and limber and make sure our hips, can do what they need to do in the springtime. But leading up to like our first steeple of the season, we'll usually do one or two workouts where we actually put hurdles on the track and we'll hurdle them during the workout. But something my coach always feels like in his philosophy is if you're a good flat runner, you're going to be a good steeplechaser. So the goal is to become a really good flat runner, and in turn, that'll translate into being a good steepler. So the goal has always been, okay, if we get a better 800 time, then our mile time is going to be better, then our 5K time is going to be better, kind of like that. But yeah, so we don't do a ton of hurdle specific work, but leading up into the track season, we do. And then just a lot of strength work. I think the steeple is definitely a strength event, and especially those last couple laps. And so we do a lot of hills and tempo runs and things like that to get us ready for it.
Awesome. So let's say like someone like me or Jordan, like we want to get faster. How should we go about that? Like what drills should we do? What should we just focus on running a certain distance a lot, or like
Yeah.
what's the way?
Yeah, I always try to tell people, I feel like so many people hate running, and, there's always that saying like our sport is your sport's punishment or something. But
Mhm.
I always tell people to slow down. I think people go out and they run and they sprint and they're like, oh, I can't do this. I don't know how you do this for 10 miles. And it's like, I've calloused my body and slowly built up to 10 miles. I was never running this much in high school or when I was little. So I think slow and steady. And if you want to get faster, I think one of my good friends, she's actually been starting to get into running more, and we've just been giving her some easy little workouts, like, go out, do a little warm up, and then do 10 minutes of 1 minute hard, 1 minute easy. And then next time do 2 minutes hard and 1 minute easy. And so it's just all about like building up slowly. And as far as specific drills, I mean, I do weight room things. I think a good runner is a strong runner. And so, but I don't think there's anything specific, that you can do that's going to make you the best runner in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know as a football player, nutrition is like half the battle.
Yeah.
With running, you exert like probably more energy than I do. So
Yeah.
can you kind of give us your nutrition plan leading up to races, after races?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting, or it's kind of fun because I'm getting my master's in nutrition right now. So I've been, kind of learning the science behind why I eat what I eat. But I think something I always try to teach, I'm a high school coach as well, and something I always try to teach my athletes too is just to not be restrictive. I think there's a lot of eating disorders within distance running in males and females. And I think you're working your body so hard that if you want a cookie, you can have a cookie, but don't have 10 cookies, But it's really important to fuel right after workouts. There's kind of this 15 to 30-minute window where it's important to get some good carbohydrates and protein in your body. So I always make sure if I'm not running from my house, or, if I have a workout at the track, that I always grab a snack to eat before I get home, because then I'm less likely to eat that junky stuff when I get home, and I'm super hungry. And something else I do is meal prep. So usually early on in the week, I try to make some sort of like hearty salad or something that I can eat for lunch, just so it's ready and easy to grab. That's something I'm at altitude training with another runner, and we've been making like 2 or 3 dishes at the beginning of the week. So then when we come home from training, we can just have them right away. And then as far as post race, I don't like to use food necessarily as a reward, but I definitely do enjoy a good pizza after I have a hard race. So pizza and salad is kind of my favorite combo, and I'll even eat that before a race. But yeah, definitely afterwards. And I do love ice cream. I always tell my high school runners that your coach is a professional runner and she eats ice cream too. So yeah, it's important to have that balance.
So in sports, we see, Kobe Bryant took a tap dancing class to help improve his footwork, and the boys down in South Florida, they chase rabbits through the sugarcane fields. Is there
Oh,
anything that you do outside of running that helps you, better yourself in your running career?
yeah. Um, I mean, I guess the one thing that comes to mind is my faith is a big part of it, so that's something that um, I guess that I tap into outside of running. And I'm actually in a athlete Bible study, and we were dying laughing one time because we were talking about how before races, you're having to go to the bathroom so many times, like in porta potties and stuff. And we were talking about porta potty prayers where we like, and I'm like, I thought I was the only one. And we were just all laughing so hard because we all do the same thing. But yeah, so that's a big piece for me is my faith and drawing on that. Um, I think other than that, I do a lot of swimming with my training. I actually swim 5 days a week and only run 4 days a week because of just injuries I've had. And I think that makes me a better runner. I think my lungs have become a lot stronger from that. And I think it's important to move your bodies, like Jordan was saying, move your body in a different way so that your muscles aren't, you know, getting broken down day after day after day doing the same thing. So I a lot of times feel like the pool is kind of a relief for me. So yeah, I'd say swimming and my faith are probably the two things that I kind of do outside of running that help it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, let's say, young kids listening to this right now and they really want to become a professional runner. How should they go about that? Like, what's the process look like?
Yeah, I think my training partner that's up here with me, we were talking about that the other day about just the dedication that it takes to be a professional athlete. I'm she's away from home for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I'm away from home for 3 weeks, and just the sacrifice that you have to go through to do it. But it's worth it when you make those teams. You make those U.S. teams. Um, and so I would say at a young age, I very much believe in not specializing. I know a lot of athletes are kind of going towards that now and feeling like, oh, I have to be on this AAU team in order for a scout to see me, things like that. And I think we see a lot more injuries with that. And so, yeah, I'd say not specializing. But if you have these big goals and these big dreams, I feel like running is not necessarily something where it's always the most talented person that succeeds. I think you can work really hard at it and you might not be the most talented, but you can be a professional athlete. And yeah, if you work really hard at it and put in a lot of dedication.
Mhm.
Would you have any other recommendations for young aspiring athletes to try to get to the level that you compete at?
Yeah. I the three I saw this from Logan's, so I was like, oh, I want to make sure I have some good points for this. But
Yeah.
something my husband and I always talk about is enjoying the process, because if you're not enjoying it and you're just so outcome focused, I think you can get really caught up in it. And a really good example was our two of our athletes at the state meet for track. We had three athletes in the top five, and two of our athletes tripped each other and ended up falling back a little bit. Maybe they were seventh or eighth. And afterwards he talked to the kids like, we have to enjoy this process, because if we didn't, this whole season would be a failure based on that result.
Mhm.
And so making sure you're enjoying the process, enjoying the journey. And then another thing that I learned this motto this year from one of my friends. Just remembering that you get to do this and you don't have to do this. And like, instead of like, oh, I have to go do my swim this afternoon, it's like, no, I get to go do this. Like, this is a really cool thing. Not a lot of people get to say they're a professional athlete. And so really just embracing that. And then the last one is to not specialize. I always want to like make sure I um, emphasize that. We had a kid on our team who played soccer in the fall, and he was on our cross country team. And the coach before us didn't like that he was kind of a dual athlete. And Jeff and I, my husband and I, just felt like we could never take that away from somebody, and have them like look back and regret it and be like, gosh, I wish they wouldn't have made me quit soccer. And so if anything, I think it makes athletes better athletes. So those are kind of my three, I guess.
Awesome. Yeah, I just read a book called Range, and it talked
Mm,
about the importance of not specializing, kind of in
yeah.
everything, not just sports, but
Yeah. I
yeah, it
think
was
it's good.
interesting.
And I think I try to do that in running too. Like, yes, I'm a runner, but I'm also, I am a school nurse and I go to school, and I'm a coach. And so if running's not going well, that's not my end all be all, so I think it's important to have that balance in other areas of your life as well.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having me.